What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday. It's a co-main event podcast, Patreon live chat. I'm Chad. That's Ben. You are both the beloved patrons of the co-main event and the general listening audience over there on the proper. Ben, we got a weird situation here.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the weirdest recording setups that we have ever had because circumstances conspired against us yesterday when we would normally record the proper. We did not do that. And so in order to make amends with the listeners, we thought we would do our normal Patreon live chat today and put it out to the general audience for free. And we are also forced to record at your house because of some stuff happening over at my house. So we are both at your house, but also because we are so ill-equipped to actually shoot video of this podcast, we are in separate rooms.
Separate floors of the house, in fact.
You are in the basement. I am in your kitchen. We are recording the video of this thing on our laptop cameras. Here we are. It's an odd setup.
It's weird because I can hear you up there. I can hear you. I can hear the murmuring of your voice wafting down the stairs. Yet then I also hear you directly piped into my ears via the headphones. It's disorienting, frankly.
Sounds like you might need to get some better noise canceling headphones if you can hear me up here.
Or maybe your booming baritone just reaches.
I assure you, that's not what it is.
The floorboards. All right, well, we're going to try it. I mean, you know what? It might as well. It kind of ought to be disorienting at this time of the year because here the kids are in their last week of school here. Everybody feels like we're just holding it together, trying to make it to Christmas. So why not the CME as well? I will point out, we're putting this out. I believe our plan is we're doing our regular Wednesday live chat. But since we didn't do the proper, putting this out for everybody. If, for instance, you're usually just a podcast listener, you've wondered what the live chat is all about. You've wondered just how wild and woolly does it get over there in the live chat. Brother, you're about to find out. And if you find yourself enjoying this, you want to get down with it on a regular basis, join the Patreon. It's cheap, easy. You support some independent creators, not these corporate fat cats. And you can have this kind of content in your life every single week. Who wouldn't want that, Chad? Name them.
I think everyone would want it. The bad news is our 50% off holiday sale has wrapped up, so you missed out on that. But
you fucked up.
I don't know, man.
Big time.
I guess if you really wanted to join the Patreon and wanted to do it badly enough that you sent us an email, I could be talked into making you a 50% off coupon code. Let's just put that out there.
Okay.
Send us an email if you want it that bad. If you're that hard up, if you want to get down with the Patreon content bad enough to send us an email, we'll see what we can do for you.
All right, you want to know who's first this week?
Who's first?
It's Brian Shea.
Brian Shea, all right.
He's going to roll up in here and say, the mountaintop air is even sweeter to breathe upon repeat visits. Since next Wednesday is Christmas and the following Wednesday is New Year's Day, does that mean I end 2024 as the lineal CME first live chat first champion? Maybe it does, honestly.
Probably, yes.
That and $1, I get you a cup of coffee. Now that the important stuff is out of the way, I did something with this most recent fight night card that I almost never do. I watched the fight the next morning knowing the results. I flew back from LA on Saturday and was so tired that I passed out right after Manel Cape and Bruno Silva. Normally, I'd wake up on Sunday, Google the results, and move on with my life. But no. This time, I saw Colby Covington lost by TKO in round 3, along with an MMA Junkie headline that described him as, quote, battered and bloodied, and I refused to deny myself that simple pleasure. I was hoping for a proper stoppage via strikes instead of the doctor stoppage we ended up with, but I'll take it. Look, I'm about as pro fighters getting that bag as you can be, but Colby's shtick has continually worn on me, even though I acknowledge it's mostly in service to him getting that bag. I don't care. His entire gimmick is parroting harmful rhetoric. He sucks. It usually takes something crazy like Max's KO of Justin at 300 to make me jump off the couch, but I still recall my unhinged screaming of, get his ass, when Usman broke Colby's jaw and finished him in their first fight. I know that we should never look toward the results of a fistfight to dictate morality, and as someone who has lamented the declines of multiple generations of fighters at this point, I know all too well the sorrow that accompanies a once elite fighter ending up on the wrong side of washed. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, for a change, it's kind of nice to feel good that a once elite fighter is now washed. Happy holidays to the co-maniacs, shout out to the homie Nobby Buckles, and go read Ben's owl story on his Substack. Okay, this is a good point, because I get what you're saying here. Those of us who have found Colby Covington's gimmick somewhere between grating and just plain awful are always going to take a certain delight in seeing him get pieced up. We also do need to remind ourselves he's getting pieced up because Joaquin Buckley is the better fighter, not because he's just like he's morally wrong. It's because he's 36. He's on the downslope now. And Joaquin Buckley, Chad, I don't know if you noticed, that boy good. Joaquin Buckley looked good as hell in this fight. So that's what really happened here. But that's the part. Colby Covington, he built up this sort of gimmick where he's trying to make you hate him, right? And it worked. It worked. He made a lot of people hate him. The thing that's tricky about it, he made a lot of people hate him, but then he did not really inspire the people who are going to be like, no, I know everybody hates that guy and I love him. That's why I love him. Like, even with his hardcore Trump shit, he did not capture that demographic. Like, you heard, for one thing, in the fight, how quickly people turned to chanting Colby sucks. It took like 2 minutes. It's like 2 minutes into the first round and people are chanting Colby sucks. Then I noticed, I saw like a couple of posts on like the MMA fighting Instagram, MMA junkie Instagram, where somebody would post something where it's like, here's Colby Covington saying shit after he lost. And people, the regular comments would be like, this guy's always making excuses. This guy sucks. He was never any good, all this kind of stuff. And I was looking at the comments and, it's going about like you'd think. Somebody would pop in and be like, yeah, he's just making excuses just like all those MAGA guys, man. It's the same as Trump. He always makes excuses and can't admit he just lost. And then the comments will be really aggressive toward that person, but not like that crowd did not come to the rescue of Colby Covington. As much as like that only works apparently if you're winning. They don't like you the way they like him. The same way that a lot of Republican politicians have found out. It's like, you can get on the team, but that doesn't mean that you are also a leader of the team. Those people will still turn on you. And Colby Covington seems like his whole gimmick was getting this response out of people, and he got it, but he didn't get any of the like, I love that you guys hate this guy and therefore like I'm on his side kind of people. Like, he didn't have anybody on his side. It seems nobody is particularly sad for Colby Covington after this fight. I can't hear anything.
The real sad part for Colby Covington is that he spent so much time and energy establishing this gimmick and then basically immediately had it stolen by Sean Strickland in a way that seemed more genuine and more likable to the people that were going to like that, right? Like, in Colby Covington's decline and absence, he was immediately replaced, superseded in terms of popularity, I think, by Sean Strickland. And so that tells you a little something about how there was a certain percentage of UFC fans who probably greatly enjoyed watching Colby Covington take a prolonged beating from Joaquin Buckley. And you were right. Buckley looked really, really, really good in this fight. He was basically dominant in all aspects, all levels. He remains undefeated since returning to welterweight. And up to this point, we had not had a great measuring stick yet to know exactly how good Buckley is at this weight class. In fact, to date, the measuring stick is probably Colby Covington. And with Colby Covington's diminishing skills with his age, I'm not sure that he is that useful of a measuring stick. But to the extent that he is the measuring stick, Buckley looks very, very good. And nobody likes to see a fight stopped on cuts. But one way that you can make me feel a little bit more like it's justified, a little bit less dissatisfied with the fact that it is a doctor stoppage, is if First of all, Dan Mergliotta sees your cut and makes an oh shit face, which Dan Mergliotta has seen some cuts, man. Like if he sees your specific cut and he makes an oh shit face, that is meaningful. The second meaningful thing is that when the cage side doctor sees it and she says, he's going to lose that eyelid, was one of the things she said. And so I was like, my God, stop the fight. Even for Colby Covington, stop the fight. I am fine with it. I do not feel all that dissatisfied with this result.
Yeah, the eyelid remark, that was an eye-opener, no pun intended. Don't you think it'd be fun to play poker against Dan Miragliotta? Because anything he's thinking ends up on his face when he's in there reffing a fight. You could see it in this fight, especially because when the doctor came in between rounds 2 and 3 to look at it, and she said something like, I wouldn't let it go much further. And he gave Colby that look like, you heard her. You heard what she said, man. You better do something. You better stop getting hit in that eye. And then, him looking at the cut, making that face, it reminded me of when we went to Great Falls to see the BKFC event. And you could see in Dan Miragliotta's face as he was reffing that event that he thought this whole thing was sort of absurd and hilarious. And it was he's just in there kind of shaking his head like, can you believe this bare knuckle shit? It's crazy. I did want to, since we didn't do our listener mail from yesterday, I did want to shout out a couple good listener mail questions that we got, even though we're not strictly following live chat rules. But from Zach Lemon on Patreon, who said, I have a question for the CME consulting service. What does a fighter do once their career has reached fun fights only stages, but they are incapable of putting on a fun fight and their personality is entirely repulsive? Asking for Colby Covington. Check is in the mail. So that is,
you know what is interesting though for Colby Covington? I think that this is a very valid question, and I support everything about its philosophy and intent. The only thing that I feel like would give me even a glimmer of hope if I was Colby Covington is that welterweight is very interesting right now. As we head into 2025, it's definitely a weight class in the UFC that I think we need to keep our eye on. You got talented but somewhat unheralded champion in Bilal Muhammad. You've got as healthy of a crop of hot new immediate contenders as you're going to find in the UFC. Shavkat Rakhmonov, Ian Gary, Joaquin Buckley. You still got Jack Della Maddalena, who's undefeated in the UFC, hanging out there. Flat-nosed Jackie, who I think we forget about. Sean Brady, whose only loss to this point is to the champion. You still got freaking Leon Edwards hanging around, being super dangerous. And on top of that, you have, it's a fairly deep division. You have insane prospects like Carlos Pratas and Michael Morales hanging around near the bottom of the top 15. So you got all those guys. You got a very fun group of veterans: Kamaru Usman, Stephen Thompson, Michael Venom Page, Vicente Luque, even guys like Gilbert Burns, Jeff Neal. Welterweight is kind of insane right now. And so even though Colby is out of real, desirable, useful prospects, I think you can still do stuff with him in this division just because there's such a wide array of other notable guys who need fights.
Yeah. Daniel Alfredson says, thanks for another year of great content, fellas. When it comes to winter, my hometown of Ottawa sounds a lot like Missoula. I just bought my second pair of Timberland Premium 6-inch winter boots. The price is a bit spicy, but they are so worth it. Do you have a go-to winter boot for the cold, dark months? Cheers. Now, you want a peek at how the live chat can just range all over the place. You never know what's coming next. This is a good example how we go right from talking about Colby Covington to go-to winter boots. I'll say this. I also have a pair of Timberland winter boots. Here's my strategy. I feel like you need one pair of winter boots that aren't good-looking boots at all, aren't stylish, aren't anything you ever wear because you want somebody to be like, hey, I like your boots. Like, you want boots that out of the box were ugly, but that are waterproof, that are durable, and that you can just absolutely beat the shit out of. Because if I'm taking the dog for a walk sometime in the winter or when it's like I might encounter mud, I might encounter tons of snow, just they can go through all conditions, and they were never appealing visually to begin with, so I don't have to worry about what happens to them, and they're just like a tank for your feet. Just kind of shake off everything, keep your feet warm and dry. That's what I get there. Then for just like kind of going out and being places, then I got 2 other pairs of winter boots. I got one where it's just like, all right, this could be, it doesn't have to be a fancy kind of event sort of thing, but they're still sturdy enough boots to get you through the winter. And I got one where it's like, what if you're going to a Christmas party? What if you're going to some kind of like actual event, but you also, you need to have some durable shoes on there, because in a place like this, you don't know what kind of conditions you will encounter before or after. I think you need to have that range. That's my take on it.
You're absolutely right. I have at least 3 pairs of boots, and that is not even counting like a weather resistant sort of like dress shoe that I have in case I need to go to a fancy gathering. I have exactly what you said. I have a pair of like slip on, what do they call them? Like Chelsea boots. Is that what they call the kind of boot that you can just slip on because it doesn't have laces and whatnot? I have a pair of those that are just those are Carhartts, and that is the pair of boots that I have had for years, and I just wore the shit out of them. I'm actually asking for a new pair of boots for Christmas. So we'll see if Santa comes through for me in that area. I have also a pair of like Red Wings that are a little bit fancier that I can wear to if I need to look at all presentable. And then I also have the fucking knee-high Sorrels. I've got the fucking Jack Torrance in The Shining, about to freeze to death in the hedge maze boots that like once it gets 15 below zero or whatever, you throw those bad boys on and you're good to go. So I have all 3 of those options, which makes me pretty bulletproof. I have to say, I have boots for a lot of different occasions.
Big Warren Dog says, what's your favorite Christmas song? Do you have any favorite holiday traditions? Now, as for the first part, I gotta say, Bob Dylan's version of Must Be Santa. The video adds a lot to it, but that is my go-to Christmas album, Christmas from the Heart, Christmas in the Heart, one of those 2 things, by Bob Dylan, to the point where, like, to the extent my kids know who Bob Dylan is, they mainly know him as the Christmas album guy, and they hate it. They just fucking hate it when I start playing that Christmas album, and I just tell them, buckle up, get ready, because you're listening to this shit. Bob Dylan's accordion-heavy version of Must Be Santa. That's my shit right there, Chad.
God, that's so awful. Your kids are going to be talking about that when they're 50. They're going to be like, oh, crazy old coot dad. He's probably over at his tiny efficiency apartment listening to that Bob Dylan Christmas album.
I'm not going to be here. Magic Johnson voice, I'm not going to be here when they're 50. Get real.
We do a lot of Christmas crooners at my house. As I've said on the podcast before, my daughter is a big time Christmas like devotee. She loves Christmas. It's her favorite time of year. And the day after Thanksgiving, she basically declares that it's Christmas music time and it's time for Christmas music all the way through the holiday. And so we have a playlist of pretty old school Christmas songs that she likes to listen to. At one point I tried to put on Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC, and I just got a hard no from my 12-year-old daughter. That's what we're dealing with. We're talking like Bing Crosby. That's what she wants to hear. So that's what we listen to over at my house, which is fine with me. I think that's great. You know what the weird thing about some of these traditional Christmas songs is? They're fucked up. You start listening to the lyrics of these things, shit is fucked up, man. Super fucked up. Baby, it's cold outside.
Well, everybody knows that one. Yeah.
Frosty the Snowman, where they're talking about how like he can be the priest that marries them the next time he's in town. It's fucked up, man.
Mean, you know what that is? That's an elaborate ruse where he's just like, hey, how about we put a hat on this snowman and pretend that he's the reverend. They could even marry us, and then we're basically married. We could do whatever we want then, right? So it's kind of official. Anywho, it's cold out here. Let's go back to my place. That's what's going on there.
Yeah,
I think
it's too cold for you to go home also, and it's cold outside. Here, have another drink and let's talk about it.
The as far as the traditions, I've mentioned before how one thing that I started without really thinking about it, and this is a cautionary tale kind of to all parents or prospective parents, because you don't realize always when you were doing stuff for your kids, whether it's a holiday themed stuff or just kind of stuff around everyday kind of things, what are the things they will latch on to? And what will be a thing then that you have to do all the time? I used to think about this when they were toddlers, and I would come up with some little game to play and they would love it. And then I would realize, why did I pick a game that involves me having to spin around in circles until I feel sick? Like I should have thought that part through. And a similar thing happened where like when they were both very young, I just was trying to get stuff as like stocking stuffers. And I was like at the gas station mini mart and got like individual little zebra cakes that I put into their stockings, and they loved it. They just started to think of that as a Christmas food. And now I got to do it every year, which is fine. But I was talking to my youngest daughter the other day, and I was asking her, like, what do you think is the best like Christmas gift you've ever gotten? And she thought for a while, and she was like, honestly, when I think of Christmas, I just think of the zebra cakes. And it was just like, see, I just thought I was just throwing stuff in a bag, basically. I was at the, just like, how about this? How about this? You know? And I ended up creating a Christmas tradition where if I were to fuck up one year and not come through with some zebra cakes, there'd be hell to pay. I would ruin Christmas if I failed to put some zebra cakes in their stockings. So that's something you got to think about. I did not think about it.
Jesus, man, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
You're gonna be down at the 24-hour gas station, desperately clawing through the Little Debbie cakes, just looking for the zebras. That's
the good news is that other people do not appear to have this tradition, so you don't have to worry that they're going to be sold out of zebra cakes just because it's Christmas time.
Man, I really got myself in a terrible spot with the elf on the shelf thing, man. We started doing elf on the shelf, and the next thing you know, I don't even know how this happened. We have like 6 elves at our house and like 4 baby elves, which I don't even know how we got those. I didn't even know those existed before they showed up.
2 elves love each other very much.
You can't tell where the boy elf stops and the girl elf begins. Is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So like I have to move those fucking elves every night between the start of December and Christmas. And I'll be honest with you, there's not that many places in our house that you can put the elves. And I've been doing this for like 5 years. Luckily, children are basically stupid and they forget from one year to the next the stuff that the elves have done in the past. And so I'm able to recycle a lot of my elf placement and they don't seem to notice.
That is, there's only so many things the elves
today
reasonably get up to.
This morning at my house, the elves are all playing with one of my 7-year-old's Godzillas.
Nice. Playing with or battling?
Hard to know. We have one elf named Jingles, and his gimmick is that he's a daredevil. And so he's kind of grappling with Godzilla while the other elves are basically looking on.
All right. I can't wait till we get to the untimely demise of Jingles. Lusty Justy says, hey, y'all, I'm set to go back and finish up my bachelor's next year with the hope of transitioning out of my current line of work. What am I trying to transition to? Writing. I was wondering what sort of advice y'all would offer to someone looking to get into this field at a later stage in life. Do I need to start working on a portfolio of some sort? Get into freelance? Anything helps. LYBE. I'd say a lot depends on what kind of stuff you're trying to do with the writing. What kind of writing? Because there's writing to make a living, and then there's writing to produce something specific. And more these days, it seems like never the twain shall meet. They're just different sort of stuff.
More and more, neither of those things exist. It is very hard to do either of those things. So, have a fallback plan is my first piece of advice. It sounds like he has already a career, so that he's already ahead of the game, so that you have a thing you could go back to if the various kinds of writing don't work out. There is a while back, I read this book. It's like one of these bullshit, like pop financial books. This book is called Think Like a Millionaire. And I was
What
like,
made you read this
okay.
book?
Your ex-wife recommended it. And so
okay.
I was reading
She's not
it.
a millionaire yet, as far as I know.
No, I was reading it, and I learned some stuff from it about investing that I'm glad that I know now that I didn't know before. But it's like one of these books where basically it boils down to, have you been saving? You better save all your money. Better save all your money is basically the philosophy of this shit. Save and invest all your money. But there is literally a chapter in this book called "Don't Get an MFA." And I was reading it, and clearly I felt attacked. I was like, this lady wrote this whole book just as an elaborate burn on me.
Okay, but here's the thing. At least for both of us, we didn't pay anything to get an MFA.
That's
so
true.
I mean, I get it for people. Like, if somebody would be like, don't go into debt to get an MFA, I would be like, yeah, that's probably good advice. I mean, do what you want is also one of my things. And as you know, Chad, I'm of the opinion that you're only going to do this shit once. So do what you want.
Yeah.
But we got teaching assistantship, so we didn't pay anything to go to school, and we got a stipend to teach. It wasn't a whole lot of money, but especially when I was doing it when I was like 25 and didn't need a whole lot of money, I taught a little jujitsu on the side and stuff, and just like, yeah, it got me through. I didn't spend a dime to get that MFA, so why not? And it also wasn't like I was pausing my study of the law or my business career in order to get the MFA. So there was no reason not to. I'm glad that I did it, but I can see the logic behind that argument.
The thing you and I always say is, like, it's not like we were sitting around deciding between writer or astrophysicist. You know what I mean? It wasn't like we were like, well, I could go into this low paying writing profession, or I could, become I could invent SpaceX and become a billionaire. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that at all.
As for the question about do you need a portfolio or something, I mean, yeah, it's going to be good to have some clips and everything. Really, kind of what you need is probably a website that you can have some of this stuff live on. But really, you kind of need the writing to just be out there in the world in enough different ways that somebody is going to stumble upon it, or somebody's going to be able to find it. Because the old way of just like, hey, I have a portfolio, I can show you once I already have your attention, it doesn't really work when it's so much harder to get people's attention in the first place. Like, how do you get them to the point where they want to see any of this portfolio stuff? You got to just kind of have like these clips that you can point people to. David E. Lauderay, you're gonna have to prepare yourself for this, Chad. You're not gonna like what he does here. Or maybe you will really like what he does here, but it's gonna shock you. Hey, did you guys catch this MMA story in the Billings Gazette that mentioned Ben? I'll copy and paste the relevant part. Quote, fans and relatives of Missoula's most notorious playboy, Ben Folks, were left saddened and confused at the podcaster's recent admission on his show that despite being a real adult who lives in the time of our Lord 2024, he is still afraid to eat ass. When reached for comment, Ben stated unapologetically, I like to fuck before the coffee is cold on the first date, but honestly, anything other than missionary feels yucky and sinful. After several seconds of stunned silence, Folks took another bite of his Dino Nuggets dinner, finished his half-full glass of grape Kool-Aid in a single gulp, and stated, gotta bounce, it's the air hockey championships tonight. Signed, David E. Lauderay, noted heel and freelance beat writer for the Billings Gazette. First, I appreciate that we made it the Billings Gazette. It's more believable that this would be in the Billings Gazette than, say, the Missoulian, our
Except
local
that
paper
writing
of record.
is way too good for the Billings Gazette.
Wait. Now, David, if you're going to take as your primary position, why don't you be a real brother? I think you need to reevaluate that. I don't think the path to adulthood runs through eating ass. I'll do all kinds of freaky shit. But come on, what are we doing? What are we actually doing with the eating ass stuff? Are we just trying to invent new stuff? I still think it's just a joke. I still think that they're not actually doing it. Because why would you? There's enough other stuff to eat, brother. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to do this. We don't have to. Where's my grape Kool-Aid? Where
Now,
did I set my grape Kool-Aid down?
now people understand what happens on the live chat.
Yeah.
Now, if you are a casual listener, a first-time listener, a free listener, now you get a little peek behind the curtain as to what can happen over on the live chat. I'm not here to kink shame anybody. And I'm going to take a page out of the Ben Folks book and say you only get one trip around this crazy blue marble flying through space. If you want to eat the ass, man. I don't care. Go get it. Get yourself some ass.
We're clipping that one out for sure for the CME soundboard. James Kramer says, what UFC competitor, current or past, would you least like to be receiving a gift from in a Secret Santa exchange? Who do you think would give some good gifts, be they thoughtful or comical? Now, Bixby Snyder immediately replies with, my friend was a week into his new job when he drew a rather short person in the Secret Santa draw. He wrapped up and gave him his daughter's old booster seat. The guy went crazy and he was promptly pulled in for a disciplinary meeting 1 week in. I could see Daniel Cormier doing something like this. That's a crazy thing to do a week into a new job. You have not established a rapport with these people. First of all, it's kind of a nightmare situation to be a week in and they're like, it's Secret Santa. And you're just like, what the fuck? I'm not even totally sure where the bathrooms are yet. I don't know how to make copies here. And now I got to come up with a gift for somebody. Like that's wild. But then to be like, you know what? I'm going to announce my presence with authority in this Secret Santa draw and just take a big swing right off the bat. That ill-advised. I could see Daniel Cormier doing something like this. I'll tell you what, though. If Henry Cejudo gets you in that Secret Santa, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
You absolutely know. You're getting a pillow of your own face.
Mm-hmm. You know who I bet would do a thoughtful job buying a gift is Alex Pereira. I bet Alex Pereira and Glover Teixeira go to the mall and they pick out something that they think you would actually like.
Okay.
Don't you think? Doesn't Alex Pereira seem like the kind of guy who would be a thoughtful gift giver?
Cyril Gahn.
Yeah, he'd do a nice job.
Gift giver. Yeah.
I bet Cyril Gahn would do a good job. Yeah.
I mean, it does have to be said that Dana White would get you something ridiculously lavish, or he'd just hand you a big stack of cash money.
He would definitely just give you cash. He would put like a brick of cash in a small box, and it would be a life-changing amount of cash in like a shoe box that he would have his personal assistant wrap.
You know who I bet would give you something just awful but sincere, and you would have to pretend to be cool about it, is Khabib. Khabib would just roll up in there and would give you something that he's the kind of guy who would give you something that he would want and that you would like. He's not going to give you a video game because that will make your heart weak, brother. You know, like he's not gonna give you a book he thought you'd like. He's gonna give you like, some free weights. He's the kind of guy who can give you a treadmill because he thought you're looking fat, and you're gonna have to be like, thanks, bro. Thank you. Awkward hug.
You know how I bet would get you a terrible book that like changed their life, but would just be trash, is somebody like Misha Tate. Like Misha Tate would get you a book that's like American History by Rush Limbaugh or something like that. And she would be like, I read this. It changed my whole perspective. I hope you like it.
I thought you were going to say Michael Chandler. I could see Michael Chandler doing something like that.
No, Michael Chandler is getting you like an Eat, Pray, Love banner that you could hang. Like you go to Hobby Lobby or something. You go to like Michael's craft store and you can get like a piece of whitewashed driftwood that says Eat, Pray, Love on it, and you can hang it up on your wall. Chandler's getting you one of those, something like that.
Maybe that.
See, at the top is probably
icy face mask thing that he put on. Could use one of those. Ryan Cooper says, there is absolutely a 0% chance Cub retires now, right? You all saw that look on his face. the I've still got it face. Stephen G says it's a negative number. There is a negative percentage Cub retires after this fight. Now, I did want to shout out also this listener mail that we got from Devin Scott, who said, as a proud shit-eating wild man who punched my ticket deep in the WEC days, I can't help but reflect on the career of Cub Swanson. Sorry, Cubby Sampson. I wasn't around for the Pride FC glory days, but I watched Cub do his things since back when the WEC cage was still blue and the nights were still wild. Now, after seeing him deliver that spectacular KO of Billy Q, I find myself wondering, is this the last time we'll see him in the cage? And if it is, will Cubby Sampson finally hang up the gloves and pick up the cocktail shaker full time? I'm picturing him in a Hawaiian shirt behind the bar, slinging Mai Tais with little umbrellas and philosophizing about fighting being fighting. On a more serious note, how has it been interviewing Cub over the years? And if this is really the end, how will you two remember his time in MMA? Now, when I saw that fight, first of all, I was hooting and hollering when he landed that knockout, because it was like he started off good in that fight. I was like, man, Cub's doing pretty well here, and then started to slow a little bit. Billy Q started to come back, and I went, well, okay, yeah, age is still a motherfucker. But then he lands that shot, drops him, does kind of a walk-off KO, and I was like, hell yeah, Cub Swanson. And in his immediate post-fight remarks where he was like, well, I told my wife this would be the last one. And I was like, oh no, man, come on. This would be such a great last one to get that walk-off KO. We've all talked about that dilemma where you don't want to end on a bad one, but then when you have a good one, it tells you don't need to end at all. And you end up in that cycle for a while, and you end up taking more beatings than you have to, and it just gets sad. But then when I saw him on Ariel's show, after he had a couple days to think about it, it started to sound a little bit more like he was coming around to the possibility of that being his last one, which, yeah, that's understandable, isn't it? Like, if you, in the moment, you're fired up, you feel great, you don't think you need to hang up the gloves just yet, you have some time to think about it, and maybe start to go, well, yeah, but that would be a pretty sweet ending, and there's probably a lot more bad possibilities waiting out there for me at this point than there are good ones.
I mean, history tells us there's no way that he retires, but he's saying all the right things, at least at this point. I liked his quote that's been all over social media the last couple of days, where he's like, right now I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like I could be done. I'm feeling pretty happy, I think is what he said. And it'd be great to see a guy like Cub go out on the note of a knockout victory over a, relatively functional, in his prime sort of an age guy like Billy Q. So I think that'd be great for Cub. I think I've talked to Cub a couple of times way back in the WEC days, and I always found him to be nice and like, not a remarkable interview, but like a good fighter interview.
Really, I love interviewing Cub. I've interviewed him a bunch of times, and I really found him to be very thoughtful and have a lot of just like more like reflective shit to say based on his many years in the fight game at this point. Like a few years back, I did a story for MMA Junkie about how one of the worst injuries is the broken jaw, basically just because of the recovery from it, having your jaw wired shut for 6 weeks, and fighters, tough guys, talking about how it just drove them crazy in these different ways. And he broke his jaw twice in fights, and I remember some of the stuff that he was saying about it. And especially I remember him saying that the second time that it happened, his family was kind of looking at him like, how much longer are we going to do this? This is no way to live, kind of. But also he was saying that he knew right away, because he's been through it once already. He was like, I knew if I let myself feel bad about this, if I let myself start to feel sorry for myself about this, it'll be a miserable experience. And so I can't even allow that to start. And had a different way of approaching it, the psychological aspect of it, the second time around. And I've had several conversations with him like that, where it's just like he's really is a thinker about the fight game and about life in general and stuff. And so I love interviewing him. He's always a memorable guy. But yeah, I really hope that was it, because that's a great one. That's a great one to go out on. Thomas G says, what up, gents? Dating is a hellscape. I recently had someone stop talking to me because of a SpongeBob reference. This same individual also got mad at me because she forgot my birthday. Do you have any delightful anecdotes about your partners that will help me feel like dating is worth it and that I shouldn't just peel my own face off? And he's going to end with mustard. Bless Thomas. Is the mustard, is that a SpongeBob reference? I don't
It
know
must be.
SpongeBob.
Yeah. First of all, that's not the one. She's not the one. So don't feel bad about it, right? Feel
No.
good. Feel like you got a new lease on life, right? Because it sounds to me like she was wasting your time, frankly. 'Cause you know what? I'm just gonna say, I was gonna say this to you privately, but I'm just gonna say it on the live chat. And if need be, I'll go back and bleep this out if you're not comfortable with it. Ben Folks is in love.
This is true.
I've never seen Ben Folks put more pictures of his significant other on social media than he is doing right now. Cutesy, romantic little pics of BK on his Instagram story. It's heartwarming, man. I love to see it. It's it's like as a guy who traditionally keeps his feelings pretty close, Ben Folks is out here just he's and so if anything, if I can say any heartwarming anecdote, I realize that it's not about my partner, it's about you. But you are sort of my platonic life partner. It's fun to see you enjoying yourself.
It is fun to be enjoying myself. I like how when you said you were going to bleep it out, I was like, what could possibly, because I don't know how you're going to bleep all that out. But yes, that is true. And here's the thing though, that maybe Thomas G is dealing with here is that when you're doing, especially like online dating, like dating apps being like the primary way that people meet each other and everything. And so it does create in you this sense of like, you encounter one thing that you kind of don't like about somebody and you go, next, and I know I've done it. Like I've done that where I'll see something and be like, nope, didn't like that. Nope, not going to work with that. And I think that people, when they had to meet each other more organically and know people rather than just sort of like, ticking stuff off on an application kind of, they were maybe less likely to do that. And also the dating apps give you this illusion of like infinite choice where it's like you're watching TV and whatever you're watching, you're wondering what's on the other channels. So like, I think that kind of makes it harder. But yeah, I will say, that somebody does something like that where it's just like these kind of things. I always try to tell myself kind of what you said. You're better off finding out now than finding out this shit about somebody after you were invested and took a lot of time with it. Like you find this stuff out sometimes. I had a friend recently, she was going through something where it's just like her and this guy she was seeing, and through just like, they lived a couple hours apart. So when they would spend time together, it's been like the whole weekend, and kind of quickly found out that it wasn't going to work, that they weren't right for each other, and found out probably quicker because of that. Because like, hey, if somebody drove an hour and a half to get here, then we're going to spend a lot more time together. But then we're also, in spending that time, going to realize, maybe we're not right for each other. So like, focus on that, move on, and then you find somebody better for you at least. Harry Holler says this doesn't need to make it to the show. Too late, it already did. Just wanted to express appreciation for this group. Truly no assholes. I mean, there's some playful assholery on occasion, but this is a good group, worth all 5 of my dollars. So there's a testimonial right there. That's what you call that. KJ notes, just to clarify from last week's comments, yes, spell check did me dirty, as Chad said. I do not, in fact, refer to my wife as bro. I still think it would be awesome if you did. Follow up on the Christmas movie list. I watched the Jim Carrey Grinch, and it was excellent. The top list has been expanded to 4. As for 4 Christmases, please watch. It's just such a perfect comedy. It is not. I believe I went and saw 4 Christmases in the theater, because it was at the time where it's like Vince Vaughn was in a bunch of hilarious shit. And so you thought Vince Vaughn's going to be in, like, anything he is in is going to be good. And no, I did not think that it was funny or good at all. no disrespect to KJ Eslick and his list, but the Jim Carrey Grinch is, you're like, okay, somebody had a unified vision and they followed through.
What
which I can
about Muppet
appreciate.
Christmas Carol, though?
Muppet
Did
Christmas
KJ
Carol
go
is still at the
check out-
top.
Did he go check it out, though? Did he watch Muppet Christmas Carol? Have you been caught in the hot frosty discourse at all?
You know what? I've heard about it from two different people now. I was just last night at a middle school orchestra concert when our mutual friend Dave Nadler was talking to me about hot frosty, and I was just like, oh man, am I gonna have to break down and see this shit?
I have
don't know.
been witness to two separate conversations between people who do not know each other, but are in my vicinity, my circle, talking about hot frosty. And the first time I was like, are you guys speaking a foreign language right now? I have no idea what you're talking about. Is this a double entendre? Are we talking, is this a sexual innuendo? We're talking about doing a hot frosty last weekend? But apparently it is a Christmas movie in the vein of one of these Hallmark Christmas movies a little bit, but it is on Netflix and it is about a woman who falls in love with a snowman come to life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe you want to add hot frosty. Maybe you want to amend your list of great Christmas movies to include hot frosty. You won't know until you give it a chance.
First of all, I want to point out that this is the episode in which you have told people to go ahead and eat ass and also talking about doing a hot frosty. So tables have kind of turned here.
I stand corrected.
In some ways.
Yeah, no.
It's, you know what? At this point, I've come out so hard in favor of people just do something new other than just make a reboot of the same movies we've seen, all this shit. So I guess I can't get too mad at Hot Frosty. It is still working, I guess, with intellectual property in a sense. But the thing that makes me mad is every time I've seen an ad for The Rock in Red 1. And I just think, what the fuck, man? What the fuck is The Rock doing?
Red 1 is the film that The Rock's personal assistant came up with. And that's how it got made. Like The Rock's personal assistant pitched it, I think, to The Rock's production company. And here we are. Now we got Red 1 on our hands.
The Rock's personal assistant looked up from a bong one night and said, I got an idea, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Breezy Jackson says, hey guys, thoughts on the new Saudi AI judge debuting this weekend at Usyk Fury 2? How long before we get one in the UFC? I heard about this, that we're going to have an AI judge just to see what the hell happens. Man, we are in such a weird spot with this AI bullshit where so many people are just saying like, what could it do? Everything? Except not anything that would make people's lives actually easier. Just let's try to have it do everything fucking poorly. And it just feels like it makes me feel like I'm going insane sometimes because I'm just like, I don't know, man. Did you guys not watch the same movies I did growing up about the dangers of letting the robots take over? Because I watched those movies and none of them seem to be like, hey, we let robots take over and it's fine. Also, none of them are just like, we let the robots take all the human jobs and now we get to chill. Nope. That's not what's going to happen. And so far, the list of things that AI sucks at, that AI just sort of can mimic poorly a human at, is so much longer than the list of things that AI actually seems to be good at and, appropriate for. But fine, let's have it judge a fucking boxing match. It's like we have this hammer, and so we're going around looking for anything that possibly resembles a nail. And we're going to look back and see a bunch of holes in the drywall and wonder how it got there. That's my take.
Two things that I will use AI for. Number one, transcribing my interviews.
Yep.
Number two, making a logo for my fantasy baseball team. And that's it. That's all I'm ever going to do with AI. AI is dumb. I don't get it. I don't understand the fascination with it. And that, that's pretty much all I have to say on the matter. I understand that there are probably some jobs and careers that benefit from AI. But you know what I don't think is really one of them is judging fights, right?
Yeah.
Like half the fun of, well, first of all, a person can judge fights, right? And it's not like anybody sees that as a hardship that needs to be corrected by the computer. The only thing that we have that is human error, the only thing that we criticize judging about is human error, and that's like half the fucking fun of fight sport, man. Don't act like we don't all kind of enjoy it when you get an arguable, debatable judge's decision that then we can spend hours the next week talking about. You want to have it, you want to have the whole thing be perfect? It's going to be less fun.
Yeah. And I think it would be a lot less fun because it's not like using a computer to tell when a tennis ball is in or out, or using a computer to tell when it's a ball or a strike in baseball or something. Like, I agree there could be a use for that takes out some of the human guesswork at something that's happening too fast for our eyes and brains to process. But there's no way. It's like, if some shit happens at the U.S. Open, the serve is just barely out. We see the little replay; it shows the thing. Even the stuff like that you see in soccer with like the VAR stuff, where it'll show you like, oh no, the guy's wrist was offsides. Like shit like that is at least sort of an objective reality you're pointing to. The AI is not going to judge fights in a way that where you go, yeah, no, you can't argue about that. That was that guy's round. Fight sports does not lend itself to that. You even if like we already have the ability to be like who landed more punches, but that's not just what we're doing. We are going more off of vibes than that in fight sports. We always have, and I think people will find that they would dislike it if there wasn't a human person they could get mad at and yell at about it. Because it's not as fun to get mad and yell at a computer that doesn't care that you're mad and yelling at it. And so, like, if you disagree with a thing, it's not going to be able to show you any evidence that proves that it is right and you are wrong. And you're not going to have the satisfaction of being like, Adelaide Bird, you piece of shit. That I think is what people are going to dislike.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, we're about 50 minutes in. You know what time it is.
It's Tracy time.
Tracy Dickinson writes, I'm not sure if you saw, but Mighty Mouse was training with Team Khabib this week, and a good time seemed to be had by all. That is, except for one clip that I've seen, where Khabib is asking DJ about his video game habits and how much he plays. This led into him saying that DJ gaming with his cousin Abu Bakr was so much was the reason that his cousin lost his fight. Demetrius comments that he hasn't seen him gaming for a while, to which Khabib matter-of-factly replies, brother, we break his computer. He then follows up with, I know you think we joking, but with a look on his face that clearly says he fucked around and found out. How do you picture this going down? Was it Khabib that went to talk to Abu Bakr by himself to let him know he was doing it for his own good while he calmly removed necessary parts? Or did he assemble a group in the middle of the night with baseball bats to make him watch them while they smashed the computer to ensure he knew what would happen if he ever made the mistake of gaming again?
See, this is proving your point right here that you do not want to get a Christmas gift from Khabib, right?
Mm-hmm.
R&R is not his thing, man.
Nope.
Having fun doesn't necessarily seem like it's on the top of the list for Khabib. And here is the perfect anecdote to illustrate that. I'm sure Khabib went by himself into this man's bedroom, got his computer, carried it out to wherever he was, and threw it on the floor right in front of him, and then probably stomped on it. And probably explained that it was for his own good the whole time.
This does support my theory that Khabib, the type of dude to get you a wooden plank to sleep on as a Christmas gift and then wait there for you to say thank you. I did see some of the video, and the stuff I saw, it was Khabib and Islam Makhachev talking with Demetrius Johnson. And you just get the sense that these guys, the only way it seems that they know how to show affection to other men is ball busting. Just constantly fucking with each other, being mean to each other. And so I'm sure to Khabib, going in and breaking a man's computer because he lost his fight due to too much gaming seemed like an act of love. I'm sure he felt like that was, I'm going in there and helping this man. But But also, Jesus Christ, man, I don't know if the man would have had a different outcome with zero video games. Maybe. I
I
mean,
mean, he
everything I know about fighters tells me that video games and that form of just sort of like de-stressing is a big part of some dudes' lives. Like it's a lot of dudes, especially a lot of fighters who don't have kids or anything that you talk to. A lot of fighters under 30 or 35 or so. If you start to talk about what they do in their days, it is mostly just some kind of training and video games and eating, and that's it. You got to have
this
some kind of
dude
relaxation, right?
this dude better been playing a lot of video games to have warranted this response.
Yeah, was he missing training sessions? Yeah, I don't know, man. Some lightning round before we get out of here. Dan Gerger, who this time is kind enough to provide me with a phonetic pronunciation of his name, I always appreciate that, says, so today on my way to work, I was listening to NPR, and there was a story about the Federal Reserve Bank and its struggles to subdue inflation. Pretty typical NPR stuff, right? Then they play this clip of a speech by Fed Governor Chris Waller. Quote, I feel like an MMA fighter who keeps getting inflation in a chokehold, waiting for it to tap out, yet it still keeps slipping out of my grasp at the last minute. The reporter then extends the metaphor with, quote, the Fed will not let inflation out of the octagon until prices are under control, which was met with hearty chuckles from the host. I gotta say, I did not expect any overlap of those two circles in my Venn diagram. What's your most unexpected / surprising MMA reference out in the wild? I didn't hear this one exactly, but it's stuff like that honestly kind of tells me the degree to which MMA has gone entirely mainstream. Because it used to be, if you'd hear a sort of reference to MMA, it would be like, oh, this political campaign got dirtier than a cage fight or something. And you're just like, okay, look, we do have a cheating problem, but there are rules. God damn it. And it would just be about like the extremeness of it with no real sense that the people make using the metaphor understand it. This one seems like not only is the metaphor kind of appropriate, but people are taking it seriously, and like everybody understands what the metaphor is really saying because they understand at least enough of the basics about how MMA works to frame it that way.
Yeah, this makes it seem like maybe the Fed chair watches the sport because that is a thing that happens. This is not like a side check kick level MMA comment. This makes it seem like maybe this guy's seen a fight or two.
Also, are you telling me then that the Fed is basically Joe Rogan being like, that's it? Every time there's some kind of choke attempt, being like, that's it, that's all. And then be like, oh, no, he's out. Because maybe.
I mean, if the moral of the story is perhaps Joe Rogan also doesn't understand the Fed, I would also believe that.
Balls Deep says, I'm sure I'm too late, but my wife was telling me that a law just passed that said reality TV stars are now considered employees. Do you think this could have any effect on UFC fighters being considered independent contractors? I had not heard this. That is interesting. But wouldn't it just mean that they're employees for the time that they're on the reality show? And, so it would mean that while you're on Tough, you're an employee, but then if you win the UFC contract, then they can still have you as an independent contractor.
If this were to negatively affect the UFC in any way, I guarantee you that their lawyers have already put language in a contract to make it so that the person voluntarily opts out of that.
Yeah, it also seems like if the UFC, well, one of the things that I think you could say positively about Joe Biden's administration was that it was more pro-labor than recent presidential administrations, and it seemed like maybe the National Labor Review Board was going to be able to do some more stuff. Now we're going right back to Trump. And so if Dana White particularly, if he specifically had a problem with some kind of labor law shit going on, he'd just pick up the bat phone and deal with it directly, So there is that. Nathan Quattrucci says, do you prefer the old UFC having a semi-decent card every week with the odd good pay-per-view, or what we have now, which is a run of bad cards with the occasional stacked pay-per-view? As someone who used to have no responsibilities, I like the old way, but the new method suits me now. I agree. I've said this before, but like for me, go ahead and throw a bunch of filler on the fight nights. What you're telling me is that they're mostly not that important to watch and to follow. And if there are good fights, I'll hear about it. When somebody I care about fights, like Cub Swanson, I can tune in. I can get there in time for the main event, but I don't have to sit there and watch it all night because I don't know who the fuck these people are. Tell you what, on Saturday, I was home in time to watch Cub Swanson to watch the main event, but I was out in the evening with BK. We're out at a bar, and it's because it's on ESPN. They're playing some of the undercard on TV, and she saw it, and she was like, "Do you need to be home to watch this?" And I was like, "No, absolutely not. I don't." And she was like, "Who are these guys?" Like, because normally I can tell her stuff about people. Something she finds interesting about it, and I was like, "I have no idea who these fucking guys are. Doesn't matter. If something interesting happens, then we can figure it out. But mostly it doesn't matter." And yeah, I agree. Like when you have more stuff to do, it frees up some time because the UFC is telling you don't have to care about these fights. And then we can save the people you do care about for the pay-per-view, which, hey, if I'm going to pay you $80, I should care about it. So
Yeah.
I agree. This works for me.
Yeah. As much as I resisted and railed against the oversaturated cast schedule going all the way back to the Fox days, I have become accustomed to it at this point. And the thing that really changed was that the UFC dropped the pretense that you need to watch all this shit. Because remember, when they first started doing this, they were still kind of subtly laying it out there like, if you are a true fan, you will watch every fight. And then it slowly became clear that you could probably not watch every fight even if you wanted to. And so now I feel like despite the fact that they would never admit this publicly, there is more of a tacit admission of like, okay, we don't expect you to watch every second of this, kind of pick and choose and watch what you want, which I think, now that is out there, I have made peace with the new UFC schedule. And by new, I mean started like 12 years ago.
Neil says, I had the misfortune of needing to go to the Apple store in our mall for part of my wife's Christmas present. It was like old school Black Friday at the mall that day. I swear I'd stepped right into 1998. Feeling some pangs of nostalgia, I wandered into Spencer's, which was once the place to go if you were a teen/tween looking for cool and edgy stuff. I wasn't terribly surprised to see that the ugly sweaters on display featured more adult language or themes than I personally felt appropriate for a mall store, but anyone could just wander into or pass. What I wasn't prepared for was the wall o' dongs at the back of the store. I expected there to be the small section or shelf of naughty bachelor/bachelorette party gags tucked in a corner beyond the Scarface and Guns N' Roses t-shirts. Instead, there was a full-on adult superstore back there. The sweater display at the front of the store was literally the only thing obscuring the view of the toys from the gaze of passersby. I've got nothing against it, but I figured I'd let folks know since some of y'all got kids of mall rat age, and at least one store I remember from back in the day done grown all the way up. Cheers and happy holiday celebrations to you and the co-maniacs. See, I bet you thought you were going to get through this whole thing and not hear wall of dongs.
It's a live chat, brother. I got no expectations. Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day, though. I think that the Spencer's in the Missoula, Montana mall might be the longest standing store in that entire complex, because that Spencer's has been there since I was a kid, and almost everything else has come and gone, but Spencer's holding strong.
Now that is interesting. Yeah, I haven't been in there recently, but I do remember going in there and being like, oh yeah, like it feels less jokey and more adult themey than like Spencer's used to be. Like if you needed a whoopee cushion today, like you need a whoopee cushion in time for an event today.
Whoopee cushion emergency.
Yeah, that's where you'd go. And yeah, and now it's just like, if you need a ball gag, like, and not like a here's a joke gift ball gag, but a practical everyday use ball gag. You can find one, right? But then again, you go into the mall. We got one of those T-shirt stands that'll sell you a bunch of irreverent t-shirts, but also we'll make one for you. And you walk by that thing and it's just like the grossest sexual innuendos next to a t-shirt that's a picture of Kobe Bryant walking into heaven being greeted by Tupac and Biggie. Like it's shit like that. And so you're just like, all right, we're doing different stuff in the mall than we were when I was a kid.
Do you think Spencer's is just trying to grow up with its audience the same way WWE did the Attitude Era when we were all in college? Do you think it's like, well, back when our shoppers were in middle school, maybe they wanted more of these joke novelty whoopee cushion gifts, and now that they're adults, wall of dongs.
Let me tell you something. If you're hoping to spice things up in the bedroom, you're like, let's get some toys in here, let's get some accoutrement. First of all, don't get it at Spencer's in the mall. Second of all, if you do get it at Spencer's in the mall, don't tell your partner that that's where you got it. Say you got it some kind of specialty online store.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be like,
with a French name. I got this at Mont Leblanc Amour or something like that. That
get in here and lay down. I got some shit from Spencer's I want to try on you. Like that's not gonna end well. All right, we will end with this one from Matthew Thomas, who says, "Hey, Chen and Bad, as my 7-year-old has taken to calling you guys." Which, first of all, I don't know if the 7-year-old has been listening this far. We apologize. Based on what we know about them outside the cage, who's the worst person, Jon Jones or Conor McGregor? And yes, you have to pick one of them.
I mean, Conor McGregor, right?
Because of the rape stuff.
Yeah, the multiple allegations of sexual assault, right?
Yeah. I mean, Jon Jones has a lot of bad guy stuff on his resume too, but Conor McGregor's Wikipedia has a whole subsection at this point of sexual assault stuff. Now, Jon Jones also has some allegations of partner violence and things like that are super not great. There was the thing. I still every once in a while remember Jon Jones talking about the resolution to his case with the anti-doping sample collector, talking about it as if he had been exonerated. And I still just kind of every once in a while remember that and shake my head. Just like came out of that being like another one got cleared of another one. And he's just like, nope, not at all, man. Not really at all. I don't want to go to either one of their houses.
Yeah.
But it does seem like Conor McGregor is more of a threat to the public at large. Whereas Jon Jones, at least if you could stay away from his house or hotel room or something, you'd probably have a better chance of being okay.
Yeah, saying that Conor McGregor is the worst of the two is not to say Jon Jones is good, right? That's not what we're saying. Answer me this question, because I have only seen this floating around on social media. I have not investigated it fully, but I have seen a lot of these headlines and a lot of talk over the last couple of days about Conor McGregor boxing Logan Paul.
Yeah.
Is there anything to suggest that that is real aside from Conor McGregor sent a tweet about it? Like, have there been any additional steps in terms of like fact checking that is actually a thing that might happen?
Well, Dana White did say a thing at the press conference, right, where he was just like, we're working on something for 2025 that you guys are never going to see coming. And it's going to blow your minds and shit like that. You know, with Dana White, that could mean anything. It could mean, you know, we got a new fight for Nasruddin Imavov or something. But also there's that tweet, Jake Paul talking about like that there were some discussions about a Conor McGregor thing. And it's crazy to me that people would say right now is when they want to turn around and try to put something like that together, because this rape shit just happened. Like, you don't even want to lay low for a little while. You know, like you don't want to just be like, all right, let's get 6 months to 2025. Let some other people do some horrible, heinous shit that replaces this in the headlines, and then then maybe we'll circle. You want to go right for, because it definitely seems so transparent of them being like, we got to get him to do something that is the thing people know him for, because right now they know him for all bad shit. Let's turn immediately and trying to get him into some kind of celebrity boxing match. It seems like the worst fucking time for that.
Well, that was the thing I thought. I saw him say that he was going to go fight Logan Paul, and I thought to myself, oh, Conor McGregor got convicted of rape in a civil trial literally like 2 weeks ago, and now he is tweeting about fighting Logan Paul. I thought that the general reaction would be like, we see what you're doing, Conor.
Yeah.
We see what you're doing. You're trying to distract us from the other thing. And then I look on all of the MMA news websites, and it's just like fairly sober analysis of what might happen if Conor McGregor fought Logan Paul. And I was just like, do we have any evidence to suggest that this is actually a thing that is happening? Or are we just going off of a Conor McGregor tweet? Because I will remind you, Conor McGregor tweets a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And not all of it comes true.
And some of it seems to be, to put it mildly, ill-advised. So, I mean,
yeah.
And he's supposed to go back to court for like a contempt hearing because he's been doing shit on social media and saying shit on social media that the judge already told him not to. The big homie P.C. Carroll was just talking about this last week, that basically he's going to have to show up in court, get fined and yelled at again. And so in between that, we're going to tweet about how we're going to box Logan Paul. It just seems like, man, if ever there was a time to get on the yacht and disappear for a while, it would be this, right? This should be what the yacht is for. To not only keep you out of trouble, but to keep you away from polite company out in the open ocean.
Extremely Don Draper voice. That's what the yacht is for. All right. That's going to do it this week for the Co-Main Event Podcast Patreon live chat. I don't know what you'd think if you just stumbled into this thing as a casual listener of CME, but here it is. That's what we do here. So hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you want to sign up over at the Patreon, go to patreon.com/co-main event. Send me an email. Maybe I'll give you some money off. I don't know. I haven't decided. I want to know that you want it. I want to be wanted by you. For the rest of you on the Patreon, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow for doing the damn thing, and Friday with the Power Hour, at which time we will discuss next week's schedule. Thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate the support. As for right now, we're done.